everybody.
No, the bottom.
Welcome
No.
to the second of our installment from our Untold Stories Mentors series. And thank you also for joining us this afternoon. We have something really special for you tonight, or today. Great, good thing, because last night our first installment of our Untold Stories series featuring Dr. Gilda Shepard and Kimati Carter was absolutely amazing. They talked about mentorship within the Washington State corrections system, and as well as screening their film, Since I've Been Down. If you haven't seen this yet, it's still available to stream for the next week off of BIMA's website. Just take a look at I think we might need to do a little bit of trickery with it because the event is past, but it's on the registration page for that. I'll talk to marketing, Laura, about that.
Thank you.
If you haven't seen it yet, it is just a phenomenal film. Today's engagement, though, is going to be equally amazing. We are very, very happy to be featuring the magnificent Ginny Ruffner and the equally magnificent Miss Sarah Fetterman. They'll be presenting common misperceptions on mentorship in the arts. But before we begin, we're just going to pause like we always do and just acknowledge that the land that we're on prior to colonization was the home of the sovereign people of the Suquamish or Sequoia Nation. We give thanks to their stewardship of the land and the waters that surround us and give us so much in this beautiful area of the world that we live in. We acknowledge our history of colonialism, and we pay respect to their elders, both past and present, as they continue to safeguard the land, the waters, and their cultural traditions for generations to come. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, the city of Bainbridge Island. I probably should have added those to my notes as well, because I always tend to forget these portions when I get up on stage and get nervous. But City of Bainbridge Island, Kitsap County Prison Cultural Programs, KCTS 9, Fieldstone Memory Care, the Marshall Suites Bainbridge, and Arts and Humanities Bainbridge for their special sponsorship of our Untold Stories series and programming in general at BIMA. And of course to all of you for coming tonight, for making time in your busy schedules to come and see the things that we develop here, the things that we present. We couldn't do our work and we could not bring these kinds of programs without your continued support. So thank you very much for all being here today. So, hopefully by now, you know and don't require too much introduction of Ginny Ruffner. But on the off chance that you're not familiar with her, Ginny's career has spanned decades, during which she has mentored a generation of artists as she herself has continually added to her list of skills in her constantly evolving exploration of art and expression. Her current studio manager, Sarah Fetterman, is also a highly accomplished artist, with their relationship evolving from student to mentor, mentee, to something actually much deeper than that relationship. Today they're going to talk about common misperceptions on mentorship in the arts. Jenny's exhibition is on display in our second floor gallery until the end of February, and Sarah's performance installation, Lost in the Familiar, the performance will be on February 4th. And when is the actual install, or the dates of the installation?
3rd through the 26th of February.
3rd through the 26th. Should be something really amazing. And what time's the performance at?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Thank you. Don't
And
miss
where
that
is
one
it?
either. It'll be here in the where the Elizabeth Donnelly Davidson exhibition currently is. Yeah. Okay. Please stick around after the presentation for a light reception over in our first floor galleries. It's open to everybody who's here. And I think that's it. So, without further ado, please welcome Miss Ginny Ruffner and Miss Sarah Fetterman.
Thank you, Tim, for the lovely introduction. I'm Ginny Ruffner. This is Sarah Fetterman, and as he mentioned today, we're going to discuss common misperceptions in called Misperceptions about mentorship and art.
Hello, I'm Sarah Fetterman. I've been Ginny's studio manager for the past 4 years, and this image is me painting on a piece of glass in Ginny's upstairs gorgeous studio. Working together has been an adventure. My days range from anything including installing at the Renwick Gallery to feeding the hummingbirds outside of the upstairs studio window. I work with Ginny for half of the week, and I work in my own studio for the other half. This image is of me working in my studio where I primarily work with metal and wood. Part of what I feel most grateful for in our working relationship is that Ginny has never asked me to make my studio manager job a priority at the expense of my own practice. She supports my art wholeheartedly, and in turn I feel devoted to working with her.
And my typical day in the studio, believe it or not, I never thought a professional artist would spend so much time on the computer. But I usually spend 6 hours a day because I'm doing lots of research and I'm trying to learn CGI to enable my augmented reality projects. I also talk on the phone a lot. Now the idea of the sole artist they bring away in their studio is completely false, and was, I think, originally promulgated by the historically male-dominated art world, where often they would typically deny or try and hide the fact that they worked with assistants, and that the assistants actually did most of the work. Henry Moore was famously known for posing. The only time he touched his sculpture was when the photographer made him pose with it.
So, unfortunately, this stereotype has existed for centuries, but in fact, many of the largest figures in art history, such as Michelangelo, actually operated quite differently. An article by William Wallace from the New York Times says it quite well. The unveiling of the refurbished Last Judgment in the Sistine Chapel calls to mind the phony image of Michelangelo, the lonely genius trapped between agony and ecstasy, isolated on his back on a scaffold, paintbrush in hand. In fact, he was on everyone else's back. This Renaissance artist, it turns out, resembled today's successful business executive. Some 475 years ago, he was a chief executive officer of a small to mid-sized company, a kind of workshop, and over time reported to a demanding chairman of the board, 9 popes. Michelangelo paid his assistants well, rarely fired any, and provided housing if they walked more than an hour to the job. 13 people helped him paint the Sistine Chapel, 20 helped him carve the Medici marble tombs, and a team of 200 helped to build the Laurentian Library.
But that misperception that artists build big projects alone still persists today. For example, this one of Anish Kapoor's Cloud Gate in Chicago, sometimes called the Beam, was not done solely by him. Actually, he worked with an entire crews of people. as most all artists do, if they're gonna make big stuff, you have to work with other people. It's absurd to assume that you can do it all yourself. The piece that I made that required a lot of assistance is this piece that is on the corner of 7th and Union.
Video
Yeah, this is not working. And let's see.
In behind the scenes of creating a piece of public art. So I think maybe the more you see or the more dramatic it is, it probably helps us to remember that there's a lot of effort that goes into making that happen.
And here's just to show you scale, these are some examples of the pieces in the fabrication shops that were being made. I didn't make any of those. I was there bossing them around, but I did not make them. I'm good at that. And I have to tell you a little about this slide. There's a, you might not be aware of a new program that's in the world now. It's quite controversial. Takes to image. There are several ones, Mid-Journey and then Dali, unfortunate name. And what you do is you feed in what you want, text-wise, some prompts, and within less than 10 seconds it will deliver you an image of what it thinks you want based on what is the most prevalent on the web. So this image was, we put in a prompt of an adult male painter lecturing to young females. So now just point out the bizarre things about the side. The eyeballs, like his eyes on that girl behind his hand, on his fingers. It's really strange. Anyway, but it serves to elaborate on the stereotype of the adult art, usually male teacher, pontificating to young female students. Now, when I was in school.
Let me see that. Oh, one back. Sorry, one little bit there. When we were first asked to give this talk on mentoring, Ginny turned to me and said, "What are we going to talk about? I don't mentor you." And I thought that was absolutely hysterical and the perfect segue to talk about our relationship and our model of mentoring, because it's so drastically different than the stereotype that it didn't even occur to us at first that that's what this was.
And the stereotype, when I was in school, back when dinosaurs roamed over, there was 80% of the art students were female, and undergraduate, graduate, they were only 20%. And 10 years after graduation, the amount of art students that were still being artists was less than 2%. And of that 2%, only 5% of 2% were female. So there was that issue to deal with, which made mentoring a whole nother ballgame. teaching, I was often the only female, and I had to do everything myself. Bring the equipment, set it up, arrange the entire studio so that it worked well. And I'm still doing that in different ways. This is my first augmented reality project when my assistant Grant and I were hacking and Connect controller to do the photogrammetry for AR. I believe it's 2014. It's a lot different now. The technology has developed, and it's, I'm still working with, I think nowadays I work with geniuses in technology, like the technology of the front window, the Aurora Borealis. I got to work with that tech genius that freeze.
That's your clicky working.
Oh, and our relationship though is not so much skill-based as it is we are friends. And it's, I think the main thing while mentoring, two main things. One is being a cheerleader. For example, telling Grant that yes, we could hack something to, let's just try it and see if it works, to do AR. And also being, well, number one, being a cheerleader, and number two, more importantly, respect. I think I'm so lucky to be able to work with wonderful artists like Sarah, and it's a matter of respect, I think.
So this is an image of Mad Art Gallery, where Ginny installed her work, Reforestation of the Imagination. And I wanted to show this because this is the first time that I met Ginny. Oops, that's also. I remember being blown away by this tiny woman talking to a crowd, and they just had their jaws dropped. She was speaking so powerfully about her work, and I was just struck by the depth of thought and the clarity of her vision. And I sent her an email with the desire to find female mentorship in a world of sculpture and installation, which is mainly male. She very generously invited me to her studio the following week for an hour talk. And
that's a nice way to put it, I thought. Hell yeah.
I was like, oh my God, she answered. And after that lovely hour talk, I walked out with the job, and I have been working with Ginny ever since.
Yeah. And really, I think the reason why Sarah came to work, one of the main reasons, was because she could ride around on this Ginny and we share our love of equipment and tools. Believe me, if I could find a reason to have a front end loader in the studio, I'd do it tomorrow.
We do nerd out over tools quite often. I wanted to also mention another thing that hit me when I first started working with Ginny, and that was that her collaborators' names are right there next to hers. And while this really shouldn't be astonishing, with those few extra letters, she just smashed the entire history of the single artist who is solely credited for the work into pieces. And I hadn't seen someone in her position of the art world value collaborators like that. And this is just very much a part of who Ginny is. This is part of my day-to-day experience of working with her. Whenever someone from the art world comes into the gallery, she makes sure to introduce me, say my name, and show them a piece of artwork. Ginny values her assistant's intelligence. I've never felt like an extension of her hands. She often jokes that she's a benign dictator, which in practice just means that she gives an incredible amount of creative freedom to the people that she works with. I, for example, on my first day, asked what I should be painting on a piece of glass in her studio, and she replied, "Camo pansies," and then left me to discover what camouflage pansies might possibly be. And this way of working together really works for me because I know that she will never come to nitpick. She's not expecting me to read her mind. She really values what I'll come up with within the directions that she's offering. If you haven't seen it, Ginny has a pretty cool show. And while I was thinking about what I wanted to say in this talk about mentoring, I was thinking about my experience with being a part of this show. I got to work with Greg Robinson, the chief curator, and Ginny, and watch them create a narrative from her entire lifetime of work and way of thinking to create an incredibly cohesive and beautiful show. We looked through thousands of slides as we were choosing images for the book that accompanies her retrospective. And as I watched its creation and realized that the essays by Greg and other curators were the type of thing that I'd only read in art history class, and I realized that I was getting to see what I studied in college being made in the present.
Cool. I should say that aside. I told Sarah after we first started went in, she was the first studio assistant I've had, and I've had lots, that I didn't have to teach how to put change in drill bit. I can teach a lot of things, but she already comes with her own extremely wonderful skill set. So what we're going to show you now is some of the installs that we've gotten to work on together in the past 4 years. This one is at the Institute for Systems Biology, and two of those pieces upstairs that are metal and glass are actually at the Institute in South Lake Union. So here we are installing one. And then this is installation at an institution that no longer exists, Oxbow. And one of the main reasons I put this in is because I wanted to show what finally get to happen, we get to use heavy equipment.
Never misses an opportunity to put the Genie slide in. As we're working together, especially with objects that have never existed before, you often come up with your own vocabulary. And we joke a lot about the resume that I'm building with all of the odd jobs that it takes to make an art piece or plan for an installation. So one of my daily to-do lists reads, get glass briefcase with highway inside, 6 blue squiggles, respond to emails, water the plants. Oh, it's a video. Surprise.
This is at the Smithsonian, was at the reforestation of the Imagination Show. And it is a pretty funny image. It goes around, comes around I'm standing there bossing boys around. But they're not listening. But they're finally doing something. They're putting one of my bronzes onto a fiberglass stump in the middle of that exhibition.
So a large part of my personal studio practice is also working with people. I've always wanted to make work that was physically much larger than myself. Many of my friends have been, yes, she's nodding. Many of my friends have been extremely supportive and kind enough to work with me on my artwork. It's extremely important to me that the people that I'm working with are also learning what they want to be learning through the experience, whether that is the metal shop tools or how to be an artist in Seattle. Part of my practice is also teaching women and non-binary individuals how to weld. And whether they want to continue on with metalworking or not, it's really the look of empowerment on their face by the end of the hour that I'm really there for. I just added a video of working with one of my friends, Bridget, in the studio. I'll play a quick snippet. Please keep holding your side. Give you an example of what I'm usually wearing in my day-to-day. Nope, we're not going to play it again. So here is the installation of the piece that we were making in the studio. And I just wanted to show more people in the process and just say that working with others has always made my projects so much more fulfilling. But taking what I've learned about mentorship through working with Ginny and bringing that into my practice and my relationship with my collaborators and studio assistants has brought things to an entirely new level. This is actually at Bellevue College, where I was doing an artist in residence position. And so the sculpture classes got to come in and chat with me and ask me anything that they wanted about what it's like after you graduate. And it was just fun there are so many aspects of mentoring in little moments that we love doing.
So it turns out that the skills that you learned in kindergarten actually work well in working with other artists. Very nice. So now it's your turn. Asking questions this time.
Ginny had to add the cheeky slide.
So please do show us how smart you are.
So we have a couple of microphones going around. Just please go ahead and raise up your hand if you have any questions for us. And as I was listening to your presentation, I just thought it would be marvelous if you have mentors in your life. Just give them a shout out. Like, I would totally love to recognize Gail Tremblay, who was a huge influence on my scholarship and my work. So if you like and you have questions, let us know. We'll come around to you.
Who's going to be the first?
Hi, Ginny. Thank you very much, and Sarah, thank you very much for this presentation. In light of your relationship and how I sense that you don't direct Sarah what to do, your art must evolve based on who you're working with, I sense.
And that's very perceptive, it does, but in ways that you would not expect. Because I'm still the one who says, put this here and that there, and let's do this and let's do that. It does end up, there's a continuity, but there are enormous variety of decisions to be made. Say, for example, I say, paint this leaf shape like a leaf. Well, pinnate or palmate, what season of the year, translucent, opaque. I mean, there are all the choices that I refuse to micromanage. Of course, if it looks like Drake, we'll change it.
So the camo panties?
Panties. That might be next though.
Camo panties, it's even more, okay.
Actually, that was on a sculpture shaped like a dinosaur, a T-Rex. And I wanted it not to be so scary looking. And so I thought, well, to make it covered with camo panties, that would do it.
But on Monday, she's gonna have me repaint it with camo panties. So.
We'll credit you.
I wanted to give a shout out to my grandmother for her mentorship in fine needlework. I've carried that with me all my life, actually.
How did she mentor you?
Side by side in her group of ladies who were also doing handwork. And while they were, I love hearing the stories that the women around the table shared. And I felt a great privilege being in their presence. Because I was just, you know, as a kid, I was 5, 6, 7 years old. And my grandmother was very sweet about complimenting the work that I did.
That's really
Yeah.
hard.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Now you know you have a responsibility to pass it on.
Well, I am doing that.
Not directly the same thing, but just pass on some passion.
Yeah, I am doing that actually. And I'm also started a mutual mentorship with a young woman in Pakistan who having to do with a project that I'm doing, but she knows so much more than I do about lots of things about young girls in Pakistan than I do, even though I've lived there for a while. So we bring to each other so much, but we have not met personally. And it's virtual. We will meet personally one of these days, basically. But establishing this relationship online has been very interesting.
Thank you.
Hi, Ginny and Sarah. I just wanted to know how you cope with the transition from somebody to Sarah, and then someday Sarah's gone, and then you've got somebody else, and you have to like step back some and figure it out. I don't know how you do it. How do you do it?
It's a wonderful opportunity. Just think there's a whole new skill set that you can use if you're nice about it. And then it's just a wonderful opportunity to have a chance to see how another human, another artist might approach the same problem. I don't find it The only time I find it a negative is if we're under a big deadline. If we have the freedom to make mistakes and experiment, it's excellent.
Thank you.
Back here, I have a question. What would you say to encourage mentorship by others? How do you encourage artists of your same caliber and at your same place in your career to go back and reach back and mentor a young person?
You want to start? No, I'll answer. I'd say a lot of people in my stage of career don't think that they have anything to share. And I often don't either. And then I have moments where someone asks me a question and I realize how much I actually have to give. And so I would just remind them that they're much farther along than they think that they are, and to help other people who are making their way up.
So my question is, how do you stay, for both of you, how do you stay inspired? How do you stay motivated? You know, and do you care about how do you take how your work is perceived once you put something up? So that's like 3 questions.
I can address motivation. It's more a question of how do you control motivation. I think most artists who are extremely curious and motivated to follow that curiosity where it leads to mental. I don't think, or I haven't found motivation to be an issue. And in terms of how it's perceived when you put it up, that's none of my business. And I think art is like kind of, well, my feeling of my art is kind of like children. You raise them to leave you and send them on their way, and they'll deal with it, they'll learn. I tend to personify my art. Anthropomorphize it.
I would agree with the inspiration. I think sometimes it's hard to not want to go in 18 directions at the same time. It's like, oh my God, I have all of these ideas. And I think it's more learning how to restrict that and how to define that into something that is achievable and not going to overwhelm you the second you step into the studio. But I think I wouldn't say that it's motivation, but just the sorry, I'm sure it's moving. The confidence to go in and make your work and share it with the world is something that I think takes an entire community. I forgot your second question.
I think it was just motivation, inspiration, and then perception of when putting pieces up.
I have a moment every time I have a piece that I've been so directly involved with. I'm physically in it, I'm installing it, I'm making it, and then you step back and it's not yours anymore. And that is the moment when my work is truly done. I also collaborate with dancers quite often, which is an incredibly exciting part of my work, where I get to make something and then watch someone else explore it and show me an entirely new world that I never saw with it. And so in that way, I get to have my own perception changed of my own work, which has been an astounding feeling.
Hi, can you all hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you. Well, we just happened to be passing by and we got to be here with you, so thank you. It's been really powerful to listen. Very briefly, you gave some examples of what mentorship looks like, and you talked about cheerleader and the importance of cheerleading, which seems really true in all aspects of mentorship, no matter what it's around. So I guess I was curious, like, how has your approach to cheerleading evolved over time? What does it look like to evolve your approach to supporting those that you're working with?
One thing I think has to happen in order for any kind of support to be valid is you can't be just making it up. You can't be lying about it. You have to have a true belief, a true appreciation of it, which I've never had to fake, fortunately, because I have good people to be supportive of, so I don't have to make up just pretend to be supportive.
I think when I was first starting out, my way of being supportive was just being extremely energetic in response to anyone telling me that they were excited about a project and kind of just sharing my energy in that moment, but there wasn't any follow-through. And I think what's evolved is that I've just realized that, you are very excited about the idea, and then the day after you wake up and you're like, oh God, should I really do that? And so reaching out, texting, calling, asking what the next step's gonna be, if there can be support there. So just making sure the person knows that their project is real and worthwhile, and I expect it to continue because it should.
Sarah, I have a question for you. So when you first started working with Jenny, and you first approached her for an interview or just were you looking at a possible mentorship more through this lens of gaining skills? And the follow-up on that is, well, if that, well, yeah, go ahead and answer that one. I might have a follow-up.
Every mentor that I've ever had throughout college and starting off in my art career has been a man, and they've been wonderful, but what I can learn from them as a woman trying to pursue her own career in the arts was limited. And I wanted to see someone who had broken every ceiling that there possibly was in the art world, who was a woman, and just get to see how she operated.
I can say something about Sarah and me and skills. No, Sarah did not come to for skills. Because our art is really, really different. And I don't know, other than how to effectively feed hummingbirds. I don't think I'm sure how to do anything technically or skill set wise. What do you think?
I definitely scouted Brittany out for her brain.
Yeah.
I guess my follow-up on that is, what are the aspects of your, I'm going to use the word partnership here, that most surprised you compared to your initial vision of how these sorts of relationships work? And how do they compare to other mentoring relationships that you've had in the past?
One very specific moment pops out that it must have been my first couple weeks, and I saw Ginny just in the sun by the window playing with these little toy dinosaurs that she has. And it just astounded me. I was like, this famous artist is playing. Like, she is taking this time solely for the joy of play.
Rah.
Just been waiting all talk to do that. And I think that was just one of the most major differences between the people who I'd been mentored with previously, where it was every second matters, we're always behind, it's only about keeping up. And I was like, here's this person nurturing her playful side, and it comes out in her work in a way that I don't see in a lot of other artists, and I think it's because she realizes how important that is.
And Jenny, what are some things that you've been experiencing with your partnership with Sarah that you hadn't been able to experience with perhaps other students or other folks who've mentored over the years?
As I said earlier about the drill bit, that's only a reflection of our understanding of tools, and so that we can get past the skills to talk about the art. And it's, you know, another thing is I don't hire dumb people.
I also would just like to say thank you for your time today. It was an honor to get to participate with this. But I think that it was an interesting point that you brought up that it takes several hands to accomplish, you know, some larger pieces. And it was brought up during this that you credit the people that support your work. Was that ever like a difficult decision, or was that a value that you just constantly had?
That's interesting. I would be lying if I didn't say that it has changed over the years, because not so much anymore, but say 20 years ago, the reason that the stereotype of the solo artist living away got to be a stereotype was because that's what a lot of people believed, that's kind of what they wanted. And I can't tell you how many tours have come to my studio been years ago now that they would be surprised. Oh, you work, you know, because it's obvious that there are places for more than one person to sit in the studio and work. They'd be surprised. Oh, you don't make everything? Okay. Duh. I think, and the best answer I can give is an analogy or two of them. One is architecture. That the Guggenheim is obviously Frank Lloyd Wright sculpture. Our architecture instantly recognizable. But I guarantee you he never hammered in one nail. And that's just all the architects, major architects around. Also composers. Everybody in here has heard Beethoven's Fifth. But is Beethoven sitting in the orchestra playing lead violin? I don't think so. But so I don't know why in art people would think, oh, you do it all yourself. Horse manure. Yeah.
So this is more of an acknowledgement. I want to say that I've known Sarah for some years now, and she boasts about you doing all the time. And I remember being invited to something you had at the studio, and I was amazed. I didn't even see you or meet you yet, and so it's a pleasure to kind of see you in person, to see this, you know, someone who matches all the wonderful things that Sarah has said about you. And I'm grateful for you as being a friend and seeing Sarah grow, you know, and be tested to find her place as a female artist here in Seattle. So this is more of a gratitude statement than anything. So thank you.
Thank you, Mel. I don't think I can take credit for Sarah growing, but thanks.
Disagree.
Hi, Ginny. Hi, Sarah. First of all, thank you both. I find both of your humor and your authenticity to be very refreshing and inspiring, so thank you both. You know, I've always thought the word like mentorship was interesting in the sense that it kind of implies that there's a mentor and a mentee. And one thing that you guys like clearly display is that as much as I think Sarah gets out of you, Ginny. It seems like you get a lot out of Sarah as well. And so I think my question is kind of twofold. Like, I think like do you guys have any advice on finding the right pairing for a partnership or relationship? And then secondly, aside from just the name by the piece of art, how do you make sure you guys are both feeling valued in this relationship? Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think I love how different our work is because there is no confusion. Ginny doesn't have dancers in the studio coming in, and I don't work with glass or augmented reality, or there's a fine wall between that, and I think that helps our relationship. And then I think the immediate thing that came to mind on finding someone who's a good mentor, someone who you can laugh with. I don't think it has to be amazingly serious all the time, and one person just kind of listening to the wisdom of the other, although that's valid as well. But I think Ginny disagrees. I think just being seen as a person on both sides is that feeling of validation in mentorship is essential.
We have time for maybe one more question before we're going to head off to the reception.
Ginny, when I saw your exhibit upstairs, I was amazed at the scope of your pieces and your concepts and the mediums that you worked in. And one would think that, and you've alluded to, like for instance with the augmented reality and CGI, that you are working with others. Have you been in a mentee relationship with others in order to, go into a new medium? And is that how you, in essence, established your approach to relationship, a mentor-mentee relationship?
Well, first, about this show, the reason it's so cool is because it was well curated, believe me. I didn't have anything that was all Greg Robinson. And the reason there's so many different things, I'm old. I've been around a while, and I get bored easily. I want to try new things. And I do believe in learning from others. I've had a lot of mentors in the teaching scene that have really helped me learn the stuff I want to know. But I don't know if that shaped the way I do it, because it's not so much teaching skills.
Well, I want to thank, on behalf of everyone here for BIMA, thank Ginny and thank Sarah for just this amazing insight into a very different kind of collaboration, actually more than a mentorship. And thank you all for coming. We will be having a reception, a light reception in the first floor Beacon Gallery, where the permanent art collection is right now. And starting at 4, and you are all welcome to attend. Our next presentation in the Mentors series is going to be on, Friday. We will be presenting. One of these days I'm going to learn to write all these things down because there's just too many things rattling around my head. But we'll be presenting a panel of youth who have been mentored by Karen Akuya Vargas, and talking about their experience as young folks going under the mentorship of just a long time social activist, local social activist. And Saturday, the next day, we'll be having a panel featuring Aaron Leidick, Wendy Orville, and Eve Pillay. We're going to talk about from the mentor side of having stepped into these roles kind of unintentionally, and just how their practice has developed without them actually initially seeking to be mentors, but having nonetheless mentored dozens of folks over the years collectively. We also are presenting a couple films in the series. Remaining, let's see, on Tuesdays, our next screening will be Good Will Hunting. Tuesdays on 2 and 7, and the next week we'll be screening the last in their series, To Serve With Love, with Sidney Poitier. I would, one more time, please.